866-582-9933. That's the number to call to speak to the studio and me live today. If you're listening to the podcast, want information about what we're up to, that number, 855-347-3696. 855-347-3696. I often ask on this radio program, for whom does the bell toll? And regretfully, it's tolling now for Randy Travis. You know Randy Travis, the country singer? Randy Travis is 54 years old. Dr. Glidden is 54 years old. Randy Travis is recovering from brain surgery. For goodness sake, why did he have brain surgery? Because he went into the hospital with congestive heart failure, and the MDs cut him. And in the process of recovering from the surgery, he threw a clot. It went into his brain. His brain started to swell, so they had to cut a hole in his brain to relieve the swelling. Thank you very much, Dr. MD. And yet when you read the press release and the information that they give about Randy Travis, they don't criticize the medical doctors at all. Here's what they say. Travis remains in critical condition after surgery Wednesday night to relieve pressure on his brain. The 54-year-old Grammy Award-winning singer had been improving while being treated for heart failure caused by a viral infection when he had a stroke. The setback occurred hours after doctors said Travis was showing no signs of improvement since the treatment Sunday for congestive heart failure. So he goes in with a congestive heart failure. They do whatever they do to him, and then he gets a stroke. And nobody holds their feet to the fire. It's not even mentioned here that the stroke was probably caused by the surgery, and it probably was caused by the surgery. And again, nobody is questioning why he got congestive heart failure in the first place. The Three Wooden Crosses singer was in good health until 3 weeks before he was hospitalized when he contracted an upper respiratory viral infection. The viral illness led to a weakened heart muscle that eventually worsened into heart failure. Baloney. Baloney. A viral illness led to a weakened heart muscle. Baloney. You don't get a weakened heart muscle in 2 weeks. For goodness sake, that doesn't happen. You get a weakened heart muscle after months and years of chronic nutrient deficiencies. They discovered that he had a weakened heart condition after he was in the hospital, and they started poking around. Because when you look hard enough, you're going to find something that's a problem. Then they say, oh, Randy, you have a heart problem. You've probably been living with this problem for 20 years, but now we have to go in and surgery you. And then the surgery most likely causes a stroke. And then the medical doctors get a pass after they cut a hole in his brain. When will the madness end? Well, apparently it's not going to end anytime soon. Not for Randy Travis. Randy Travis is the victim of chronic undiagnosed nutrient deficiencies. How do I know this? Because he has a problem with alcohol. Travis' illnesses comes as he's been trying to put his life back together following a series of embarrassing public incidents, it says, involving alcohol. Travis pleaded guilty to driving while intoxicated in January following an arrest last year and received 2 years of probation and a $2,000 fine. He was requested to spend at least 30 days at an alcohol rehab facility and complete 100 hours of community service. What makes people crave alcohol? Is it psychological stress? Well, sometimes. Is it situational stress? Well, sometimes. You know, enough stress is going to drive anybody to drink. Well, maybe not, but, you know, it's not to be negated here. However, the main thing that causes people to crave anything, whether it's food, whether it's alcohol, whether it's sex, whether it's drugs, whether it's prescription medications, is chronic undiagnosed nutrient deficiencies. By the way, have you ever gone to an AA meeting? Go to an AA meeting the next time one's in your town and look at what the AA members do. They're jonesing for sweets and for coffee. Every AA member that I've ever known in my life has a serious, I don't want to say addiction, but all right, I'll say it. And it's an addiction to sugar and it's addiction to coffee. They trade the addiction for alcohol to an addiction for sugar or coffee because it's of a similar ilk. What causes cravings for alcohol? Is it not coming to Jesus? No. It's got nothing to do with spirituality. It has nothing to do with spirituality. Now, you can lean on spirituality to help your system cope, but the Alcoholics Anonymous people have it wrong. They believe that once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic, and even if you have one little drop of alcohol, when you've been clean and sober, that's going to capitulate some type of crazy biochemical reaction, and you're going to be right back on the wagon, or off of the wagon, or whatever it is. It's nonsense. The Alcoholics Anonymous theory, was started in the 1800s by a couple of very devout religious people, and then, they had success with their preaching and with what they did, and then it parlays into this gigantic movement, and now the movement is so big that nobody ever questions it. It is not substantiated by any type of medical fact that if you have, that there's something about the alcohol molecule that in certain individuals capitulates an addictive cascade. It's nonsense. What capitulates an addictive cascade is chronic nutrient deficiencies. I mean, any pregnant woman in the world will tell you they get crazy cravings when they're pregnant. Why do they get crazy cravings? Because their bodies are nutritionally starved. Why are their bodies nutritionally starved? Because their obstetrician doesn't know a darn thing about medical nutrition. So their nutrient tanks are low anyway because you can't get all the nutrients you need from food, and then you get pregnant, the baby steals what little is left. Now you're really running on nutrient fumes, and so your body kicks into overdrive craving syndrome. People crave things mostly because they're nutrient deficient. And then, if you add situational or emotional or psychological stress on top of a nutrient-deficient body, it's much easier to go down the alcohol road because you're going to get a little bit of acute relief from your worries and your cares and your concerns. And remember, worry is meditation and concentration on the things that you do not want to happen. I mean, how crazy is that? Why wouldn't you, instead of worrying about the stuff that you don't want to happen, why wouldn't you focus and concentrate and try to manifest the stuff that you do want to happen? Because we're not trained to do it this way. We're not trained in how to manipulate and manage our feelings and our emotions and our mental state. We're just kind of thrown into the deep end of the pool and left to flail around. Oh, and don't worry, your consciousness is not a real thing. It's a function of biochemistry. That's what your medical doctor wants you to believe. Did you know that? That your psychiatrist is trained that consciousness is a function of biochemistry, that your consciousness is a function of biochemistry, and that once you're dead, you're gone. And that you stop existing. It's done. You're over. It's lights out. Life is a one-shot deal, and the human body is just a random amalgamation of biochemicals that started in some antediluvian abysmal swamp, how many ever millions of years ago, capitulated by a bolt of lightning into the primordial sea, and then evolution came along. Well, if evolution really does happen between species, how come there's still frogs? I mean, we had frogs in dinosaur days, so why are there still frogs if species evolve? We had Galapagos turtles in dinosaur days. Why do we still have Galapagos turtles if species evolve? Why are there still monkeys? Now, look, I'm not arguing that evolution doesn't exist. Evolution does exist inside of species. Birds of certain species grow different beaks depending on the environmental stress in which they find themselves, right? Animals inside a certain species line evolve depending upon the stress that they're put on, right? I mean, look at dogs. All dogs came from the wolf, and thousands of different species of dogs now, but has anybody ever seen a dog turn into a cat? No. Has anybody ever seen a dog turn into a human being? No. Has anybody ever seen a dog turn into a monkey? No. Our educational system is such that we're really only educated maybe 10% of the way, and the remaining 90% is left to our own devices. And then we get wrangled up into some theological position, some nonsense medical position, some whatever, and then it's all over. We're off to the races, and our minds become sufficiently closed down, and then like Randy Travis, we let the MDs do whatever the heck they want to us, and they hurt us. And after they hurt us, the music news and all of the supporters of Randy Travis say, let's pray for Randy Travis, instead of saying, let's sue their medical professionals. Let's have a conversation about why he got congestive heart failure in the first place. Let's have a conversation about what they did to him in the hospital. Nobody says that, because everybody is of the ridiculous belief that the MD knows what's best for them. But the MD does not know what's best for them. The MD only knows what the MD has been trained in. And what the MD has been trained in is a pathetic, small piece of the pie, of physiology, of medical science. But you have been convinced by 100 years of pharmaceutical profiteering that the MD knows everything. Not only does the MD know everything, but everybody besides the MD is a quack, delivering substandard, dangerous treatments. Well, how's that working for you, listening to the MD? Well, talk to Randy Travis's family. They'll tell you that the MD did a great job and that they're praying for Randy Travis's recovery. Well, you know what? If Randy Travis had been my patient, if Randy Travis had been Dr. Wallach's patient, none of this nonsense would have happened to him. You want to know why? Because Dr. Wallach sued the Food and Drug Administration, proving that the majority of strokes are caused by deficiencies in essential fatty acids. If Randy Travis had been taking essential fatty acids, it would have been virtually impossible for his body to get a stroke, unless, of course, it was caused by a surgical problem. I'm thinking it's a surgical problem, ladies and gentlemen. Stupid is as stupid does, and we're going down the drain here. Well, not you. Everybody else but you. So, be of good cheer. Because before you know it, you're going to be the last man standing, and you'll get everybody else's stuff. And I love stuff. I'm Dr. Peter Glidden. Stick around, taking your calls when we come back. Think you have more money than Randy Travis? Think Randy Travis's money gave him the access to the best medical care in the world? Well, no. Randy Travis's money gave him access to MD-directed medical treatments, which are the leading cause of death and the leading cause of bankruptcy. In his case, it wouldn't be a bankruptcy issue, but it would be a leading cause of death. So he has a viral infection in his respiratory tract, maybe. I mean, by the way, whenever a doctor tells you it's a viral infection, that's code for we have no idea what it is. We can't call it genetic, so we're calling it viral. It's one of the easiest garbage can diagnoses to make in the wonderful world of medicine. Oh, it's viral. Yeah, prove it. Which virus is it? Which strain is it? Which genetic variation of, the virus is it? Where did it come from? Which mutation is it? Prove to me that it's viral. I mean, if I've got a respiratory tract thing in my lung, you can stick a tube into my lung, suck out the mucus, and isolate the virus. I mean, that's how they make the influenza vaccine. Well, you don't have the wherewithal to do that. By the way, tick-tock, Doc, by my records, I'm paying you about $1,000 an hour here, so get to work. Oh, no, Mr. Travis, we can't do that. We're just postulating that it's viral, and we're postulating that it's the virus that caused the heart to go south, and we have no documentation to prove this. It's just what I was taught in medical school, and harump, you have really good medical insurance, so we're just going to do all these procedures that we need to do. And by the way, I'm wondering if Randy Travis went to the doctor at the end of the month. Oh, yes, he did. It was 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago puts him at the end of June. So what do you think they did? They hospitalized him. Why do you think they hospitalized him? Because he had most excellent medical insurance, because it was the end of the month and they needed to fill the beds. For goodness sake, the better your medical insurance, the worse your health outcome is going to be. Somebody should do a study about that. Because guaranteed that's what you're going to find. Is the better medical insurance that people have. When money is not an option, when you've got all the money in the world and medical care, you can afford anything, your health outcomes are going to be worse. It has to be. It has to be that way because medical, conventional American medicine doesn't work. And it's not just American medicine, it's worldwide pharmaceutical medicine dispensed by the pharmaceutical shills of the universe, the MDs. That's right, MD, I called you a pharmaceutical shill because that's what you are. You're not a doctor. You're not practicing medicine. You're delivering drugs in a suppressive fashion. You don't care about the pathogenesis of disease. You have no motivation whatsoever to discover the root cause of the disease process. You are intellectually cowardly. And it wouldn't be so much of a problem because, hey, it's a free world. You can do whatever you want, right? Live and let live, except you're killing my brothers and sisters. That's where I draw the line. Yeah, you want to have a different political persuasion than me? No problem. You want to have a different religious persuasion? No problem. You want to have a different understanding of how economics works? No problem. You want to drive a different car than me? I'm okay with that. Want to grow your hair long? Want to grow your hair short? Want to dress up all the time? Want to dress down all the time? Want to have a sex change operation? I'm okay with that. Want to be a vegetarian? I'm okay with that. Want to be a carnivore? I'm okay with that. Want to drink beer instead of wine, wine instead of beer, whiskey instead of water, water instead of alcohol? I'm okay with all of that. But when you start messing with the health of my loved ones, I'm going to get in your face. And it's about time somebody got in your face because you suck at what you do. And nobody is holding your feet to the fire. You are intellectually cowardly. You do not take responsibility for your failures. Your treatments are the leading cause of death, the leading cause of bankruptcy, and it's about time you were fired. You know what I should do? I should form a coalition. I should form a business where we have advocates, where, you know, you could go to school at the Dr. Glidden School and learn how to become a patient advocate. And then whenever an MD recommended a treatment for a specific condition, you could hire the Dr. Glidden trained patient advocates to ask your doctors pointed questions about the efficacy of the treatment. Wouldn't that be a good idea? You know how many people would want to do that job? You know how many medical doctors will get put out of business by that job? Every single one of them. Well, maybe not every single one of them, but the vast majority. Why? Because their therapeutics don't work and nobody holds their feet to the fire. It's time we held their feet to the fire. Thanks for tuning in today, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to Texas when we come back. We're coming up against the hard break here. 866-582-9933. That's the number to call. Give me a call, why don't you? 866-582-9933. Going to Texas when we return. Stick around. Podcast number, of course, 855-347-3696. If you're listening to the podcast and want to talk to somebody, that means you're listening when we are not live. 855-347-3696, which, by the way, is the same number to call if you're listening live and want to get hooked up with the nutritional supplements or the business plan. 855-347-3696. Join Team Glidden and let us hold your hand and usher you into the wonderful world of health and wealth. Right now we're going to Texas to speak to Kennedy about rotator cuff stuff. Hey, Kennedy, thanks for calling. You are live.
Yes, I was calling about my rotator cuff. I was supposed to have surgery on it. And I was seeing, do you have any kind of nutrition that's able to repair it?
Well, it depends entirely on the extent of the damage, right? So a rotator cuff, of course, is a bundle of muscles and tendons and ligaments which wrap around the top of your arm and attach the very top of your arm to the shoulder. Now, you can have any number of different injuries to the rotator cuff, kind of like if you had a piece of paper, you could tear it just a little bit, you could tear it halfway, you could tear it all the way through, or you could crumple it up also, right? So Depending on the extent of the damage, the answer is yes or no. But listen to me, Kennedy, because the medical doctors, you know, when all they have is a hammer, and when all they have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So whether you need the surgery or not, they're going to tell you that you need the surgery because that's all that they know how to do for your problem. They have to do something. So, you know, they've got bills to pay too, so they're going to tell you that you need to have surgery, and maybe you don't, maybe you do. Now, you can never unsurgery something, and this is not a medical emergency. This is not like a heart problem that's going to kill you in 2 hours unless we attend to it. You know, you don't need surgery immediately for this. So if it were me, knowing what I know about how the MDs operate, and knowing what I know about the architecture of the rotator cuff, I would do a nutritional program for 90 days. For 90 days. I would postpone surgery for 90 days. I would do a nutritional program instead for 90 days and look to see what happens. If you get improvement from the nutritional program, then you're not going to need the surgery. And if the rotator cuff problem is beyond the ability of nutrition to fix, 90 days from now, after your body has been nutrified on this program, you're going to be much more able to handle the stress of surgery, and your recovery time will be greatly reduced. So, Kennedy, what's your current body weight, please?
137.
Okay, so here's what I would do for 90 days. Every month, I would do one Healthy Start Pack. I would do the Healthy Start Pack 2.0. The Healthy Start Pack 2.0. One Healthy Start Pack 2.0. That's the brand new Healthy Start Pack with the brand new products. It's really great. I would do one Healthy Start Pack 2.0, 3 bottles of Ultimate Selenium, 3 bottles of Ultimate Selenium.
I just feel it's selenium.
S like Sam, E like Edward, L like Larry, E like Edward, N like Nancy, I-U-M like Mary, selenium, S-E-L-E-N-I-U-M. And I would do 3 bottles of the glucose, 3 bottles of the selenium. And I would do 2 bottles of the Glucogel Plus liquid, 2 bottles of the Glucogel Plus liquid.
Yes, sir. Okay.
So do the Glucogel Plus liquid, do the selenium capsules, and do the Healthy Start Pack 2.0. Plus, there's 10 foods you have to stop eating. 10 foods that you have to stop eating. You know the bad food list?
You can give it to me again.
Okay, well, just go to my website. You can download it for free, okay? Now, the website, the website is fireyourmdnow.com. Fireyourmdnow.com. Click on the newsletter link, and when you click on the newsletter link, you'll get the list of the good food, bad food. And you can order these supplements by calling 855-347-3696, unless somebody down there in Texas recommended that you call me up. Is that what happened?
Yes.
All right, so get with the person who told you to call me up. They'll get these supplements for you at the wholesale price, and they'll tell you how to take them. Give this a try for 90 days, Kennedy. I think you're going to love the way that you feel. Thank you so much for the call. Going from Texas all the way to Seattle, we're staying more or less on the West Coast today. Talk to Audrey. Hey, Audrey. Thanks for the call. You are live.
Hi, Dr. Glidden. It's such a pleasure to speak with you today. How are you doing?
Very, very, very good. What's happening?
Well, I don't know. Can you tell I'm happy?
I can.
Do I sound happy to you? Because I'm happy because I freaking love Youngevity's new supplements. When I was a kid, health food tastes really bad. So I even went to a naturopath when I was 6 years old, and the supplements he gave me made me gag. So people think healthy is gross tasting. Well, this new Beyond Tangy Tangerine, the 2.0, the Peach Fusion, we can't stop chugging it. It is so delicious. I can't believe it's healthy.
Well, it's an interesting thing to talk about, right? And it's an interesting thing to say out loud. And, you know, I guess I've been doing this for so long that I've forgotten what it used to be like, but I couldn't agree more. You know, health food, I mean, what's the difference between health food and regular food? If health food is health food, does that mean regular food is death food? Well, most of it is. Yeah, it is. But, you know, nutritional supplements and all of that stuff, it really wasn't that great tasting stuff. There were these nasty herbs that people would have you take, and heaven forbid you went to a traditional Chinese medical doctor, gave you these herbal concoctions with dried up fish in them, and oh my God, the stuff was just nasty, right? Really bad stuff. But
yeah,
this is,
no
yeah, right?
fish in this stuff. Yeah.
I know, yeah, it's funny. This is why Dr. Wallach is to be appreciated, because what he brings to the table is new-fashioned medical nutrition. This isn't the old-fashioned medical nutrition stuff that we're rolling out. This is brand new stuff. And the brand new, the newest of the new in his longevity company is called Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 Peach Infusion. And you're right, man. It is hands down the tastiest nutritional supplement I have ever swallowed. I didn't really like the old version of the Beyond Tangy Tangerine, the red stuff. It was hard for me to swallow. It was hard for me to take. I had to mix it with different stuff just to get it down the hatch. But like you said, this new peach stuff, man, I can't stop drinking it. You know what's going to happen eventually? And I bet you that this is going to happen in Seattle, because Seattle was way out ahead of the curve with the microbreweries. Remember back in the day when microbreweries, or, you know, who even knew what a microbrewery was? And then the microbreweries started springing up in the Pacific Northwest, and now they're all over the United States. The same thing with Starbucks, for goodness sake. That's a Seattle-based company. Same thing with Amazon.com, for goodness sake, Seattle-based company. Microsoft, right? Seattle-based company. Well, Costco, I got news for you.
Yeah, the big ones.
The big ones. The next big one is going to be some bartender is going to be a longevity person, and he's going to put together a mixed drink that has the Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 Peach Infusion, and it's going to take off like wildfire. That's Dr. Glidden's prediction. What do you think about that?
Well, so I gave some to my chiropractor, and he says he always gets a hangover when he drinks red wine. Well, he went and polished off a bottle with his girlfriend. Not that he's an alcoholic, but, you know, you have fun on a Friday night. And I came in the next day, and he said, I don't have a hangover. And I'm like, okay, well, that's good. He goes, no, you don't understand. I drank this stuff, and then I went and drank some wine, and I don't have a hangover. And I was like, yeah, well, we should market this as the hangover cure.
Well, there you go. I mean, I think it's a great idea. I love thinking outside the box, Audrey. You are the greatest. Keep up the good work out there in Seattle. I know that you're doing a good job. Thanks so much for everything that you do. Going from Texas to Seattle, all the way to Calgary. Hey, we're heading north. How about that? We're going in the right direction. Going to talk to Tom from Calgary. Tom, thanks for the call. You are live.
Hi, Peter. How are you this afternoon?
Very good, thanks. Thanks so much for the call.
Well, I'm feeling better. I don't know if I'm looking any better. Well, I am looking better because longevity's helping improve the old eyesight.
Gotta love it. Oh, yeah, that's a double entendre right there. So your vision's improving?
It is. It's kind of a bonus situation, so
now, when
I'm happy about that.
Well, when you started taking the longevity stuff, were you taking it hoping to have your vision improve, or were you taking it for other things?
No, I was taking it for arthritis.
So what happened to the arthritis?
It's gone away, kind of.
Well, I mean, is it 50% better, 60, 70, 80, 90% better, 100% better? Give me a number.
I'd say it's probably 100% better. I just got my second order in.
Yeah.
So I just got back on it again.
Yeah.
The pain in my hip is totally gone.
Gotta love it.
And I can go ahead and walk more or less normal now. And sorry about the background noise.
That's all right. I understand. Yeah. That's okay.
LRT just went by here.
We're workaday people here. There's no problem at all. Now, how long were you suffering from arthritic pain before you started our stuff?
Well, pretty well Oh, probably about forever. But last June when I went in for X-rays and everything, they said, "Oh, you need a hip replacement," and I said, "Oh no, I don't."
So it's been more than a year that you've been in the weeds, been in trouble with arthritic pain, and now you're telling me it's 100% gone?
Pretty much, yeah. I got a couple places that are kind of bothering me a bit, but, you know, the hip thing, it's pretty well history.
God, you got to love it, Tom. I mean, this is why I get out of bed every morning. This is why we do what we do. And, you know, it's only a matter of time, right, before this catches on like wildfire.
Well, I think it will, and I've got another reason why I'm calling today.
All right, I'm all ears.
I caught you in Calgary when you were up here a couple months ago.
Yep.
And there was that lady that had she was pregnant and the baby had Down syndrome.
Yeah.
And Longevity reversed that situation.
You got to get her to call the show, Tom. You got to get her to call the show.
I'll have to do that. But anyhow, my niece just had a baby here maybe a month ago.
Yep.
And unfortunately, it was born with Down syndrome.
Oh, that's interesting.
So I'm just kind of wondering. I know the longevity would help the baby out. I just don't know what extent we could look for an improvement, but I'm sure there would be something.
Okay, so that's a good thing to talk about, and I just have a minute left, so let me be real quick. Once the genetic switch is flipped for Down syndrome, you can't unflip it. That's like changing somebody's sex. You can't do it. But what you can do is optimize the function of the human body. There are a couple of people who have Down syndrome who've been following Dr. Wallach for almost 20 years now. They're able to hold down jobs. They're able to get married, and that never happens in the Down syndrome family. So these people need the Healthy Start Pack and selenium appropriate for body weight. Eliminate the 10 bad foods. Keep their fingers crossed and see what nature does. I got to love the people up in Calgary, Tom. You guys are the best. Keep up the good work and have that Down syndrome woman call me. Fire your MD now, fire your MD tomorrow, fire your MD every day. Because for goodness sake, we are on the cutting edge of new-fashioned medical nutrition. It always takes a generation for new information to percolate. But with the agency of the Internet, with the agency of the radio, with the agency of the webinars that we're doing, and the grassroots coalition that we're forming, then we're pushing this baby to the max, and we're going to try to make this social change happen in less than a generation. That means in your lifetime. So get on board with it, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I want to talk about the Down syndrome thing that happened. We just got a call about that there was a woman. I was in Calgary a couple months ago, and a woman came up to me. She was a month, I think, pregnant. She had an amniocentesis, which is they stick a big needle in your belly, and they go into the uterus. They go into the sac that's around the baby, and they extract fluid from the sac that the baby's enclosed in. And then they analyze the fluid genetically, and they can tell whether or not there are any birth defects that are present. And in this case, the amniocentesis showed that the child had Down syndrome. All right? Now, the way that this happens through conventional medicine is once you have the gene that codes for Down syndrome, you're screwed, you're going to have Down syndrome. But our understanding of it is that it's not a gene that codes for Down syndrome, it's a broken chromosome. And depending on which stage of fetal development the chromosome is broken, you can fix the broken chromosome and not have Down syndrome develop or any other birth defect if you intervene in time, right? So, you know, if you catch the person who's crossing the street in front of the bus just in time and pull them back to the curb, they don't get smashed by the bus. But if you're off by 2 seconds, they're going to get smashed by the bus. So it's the same with medical nutrition in the developing embryo. So in this case, what happened was we intervened with medical nutrition in time, and were able to strengthen the chromosomal, the genetic material, so that Down syndrome did not manifest. So how about that? Definitive diagnosis through amniocentesis, showing that the kid had Down syndrome, and then they do the medical nutrition and no more Down syndrome. Now, you would think that the obstetrician would call me You would think that, wouldn't you? Wouldn't you think that the obstetrician who was in charge of this said, holy smokes, no Down syndrome, how did we do that? Must have been an act of God. No, it was an act of medical nutrition. But the way that they will hold this in their heads is that it was a misdiagnosis. Because they just cannot conceptualize the fact that you can reverse this thing. They have no experience with this. And, you know, this goes back to the cowardly mindset that medical professionals have. They're not taught to have open-minded inquiry. They're taught to have closed-minded adherence to a particular protocol. They're not open-minded people. They're closed-minded people. Even when they see stuff directly in front of their face, they dismiss it. You know, there was talk, and I don't know whether this is an urban myth or not, but there was talk about certain native tribes when the Spanish conquistadors came to Central America and they parked their big ships 100 yards off the coast. The natives couldn't see the ships, even though they were right in front of their eyes, because it was inconceivable to them that a man-made structure that big could actually exist on top of the water. They couldn't handle it. Their minds couldn't handle it, which is why the conquistadors appeared to them to be gods, because it appeared to them like they walked right out of the water. They couldn't see the ships. They couldn't see the ships because it was so far outside of their cognitive ability, their cognitive sensory experience. It's the same with MDs. The stuff that they see that's right in front of their eyes, they're going to dismiss as fancy. Another reason to fire your MD, ladies and gentlemen. They have nothing for you but drugs and surgery, drugs and surgery, drugs and surgery, death. What do we have? We have medical nutrition education, medical nutrition education, medical nutrition education, life. Choose life all of the time. Visit the website, fireyourmdnow.com. Look forward to seeing you on tonight's live webinar for subscribers only, talking about all of the new products in longevity with our special guest, Richard Renton and Dr. Dirt. Looking forward to seeing you there, folks. I'm on the road tomorrow. Next live show is Monday. I'll see you then.